You are kneeling in freezing mud at 2 in the morning. Your hands are shaking so violently you can barely hold the heavy steel crimping tool. Between your numb, mud-caked fingers is a live, non-electric blasting cap. 1 millimeter of miscalculation, one slip of your exhausted wrist, and the highly volatile explosive inside that small aluminum cylinder will detonate, instantly vaporizing your hand from the wrist down. You have to attach it to a length of time fuse, insert it into a block of composition C-4, and calculate the exact mathematical formula required to cleanly sever a structural steel I-beam. You have been awake for 72 consecutive hours. Your brain is starved of calories, swimming in a toxic soup of cortisol and adrenaline and actively shutting down. But the infantry platoon waiting behind you in the tree line is relying on you to clear the path. And if you do not solve this complex physics equation in the next 60 seconds, the mission fails and people die. Stand to welcome back to the tame room. Grab a seat. If you are new to the operational grid of this channel, let me give you the brief. I am a retired officer from the United States Special Operations community. I spent the best years of my life operating in the shadows, executing direct action, unconventional warfare, and foreign internal defense in denied territories that will never be officially acknowledged on a public map. Due to the active non-disclosure agreements locked in vaults at the Pentagon, my face is redacted and my name is permanently off the grid. The military gave me a profound, lethal skill set, but it took its pound of flesh in return. My body is a roadmap of scar tissue, titanium hardware, and localized nerve damage. The Department of Veterans Affairs sends a disability check every month to offset the physical destruction, but I am not here to rattle a tin cup. I am an officer. I believe in working for my keep. This channel operates on a strictly enforced trade. I give you the raw, unfiltered, highly classified reality of modern warfare and elite tactical training. I break down the grueling psychology, the lethal physics, and the institutionalized suffering that recruiters and Hollywood directors will never expose you to. In exchange, I ask for your engagement. You hit the subscribe button, you smash the like button, and you drop a comment down below. That feeds the YouTube algorithm. It keeps this channel airborne, and it allows me to stay fiercely independent while delivering this intelligence directly to you. If you can respect that trade, then lock and load. We have a highly volatile, intellectually punishing movement ahead of us today. Today, we are stripping away the romance of the infantry. We are leaving the shooters and the snipers behind, and we are looking at the architects of battlefield destruction. We are traveling to the deep, unforgiving woods of Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, affectionately known by those who have suffered there as Fort Lost in the Woods, Misery. We are going to deconstruct the most intellectually demanding, physically crushing, and psychologically exhausting leadership school in the United States Army. We are talking about the Sapper Leader Course. To understand the school, you must first understand what a sapper actually is. The word itself comes from the French word sapeur, which translates to one who digs trenches. For hundreds of years, the sappers were the combat engineers who dug the siege trenches under the walls of enemy castles, packed them with black powder, and blew them to hell. They were the first to walk into the line of fire, and they suffered the highest casualty rates. In the modern United States Army, the sapper is the elite echelon of the Combat Engineer Corps. There is an old saying in the military, the infantry seizes the objective, but the engineers clear the way. If an infantry battalion hits a massive minefield, they stop. If an armored column hits an anti-tank ditch or a blown bridge, they stop. The momentum of the entire United States military grinds to a halt until the sappers move to the front of the formation. Their job is to breach the wire, clear the mines, build the bridges, and when necessary, blow the earth completely apart to deny the enemy a path of retreat. The Sapper Leader Course is a 28-day crucible designed to forge regular combat engineers and infantrymen into elite breach masters. It is often spoken of in the same breath as Ranger School, but with one massive, critical difference. Ranger School is a pure test of infantry tactics and physical endurance. The Sapper Leader Course requires you to endure that exact same physical torture, while simultaneously forcing you to perform complex, high-level mathematical calculations with live explosives. The Phase 1 of the course is the general subjects phase. It is the physical filter. The cadre at Fort Leonard would know that to test a man's mind, you must first break his body. The candidates arrive and are immediately subjected to an apocalyptic physical fitness assessment, followed by a brutal 12-mile tactical ruck march carrying over 50 pounds of gear. But the true misery of Phase 1 is the environment. The Ozark Mountains in Missouri offer some of the most treacherous, miserable terrain in North America. The draws are incredibly steep. The underbrush is comprised of thick, tearing thorn bushes, and the temperature swings wildly from freezing, slate-filled nights to sweltering, humid days. During Phase 1, the candidates are tested on everything from advanced mountaineering and knot tying to airborne operations, helicasting from perfectly good helicopters into freezing lakes, and conducting small boat operations with Zodiac inflatables. They run through the infamous Sapper Stakes, a grueling multi-day gauntlet where they must navigate miles of dense woods with heavy rucksacks, stopping at stations to perform physical tasks like carrying heavy logs, evacuating simulated casualties, and tying complex rope systems under strict time limits. The goal of Phase 1 is to drain the glycogen from your muscles, strip away your civilian comfort, and induce a state of chronic, deep bone fatigue. The cadre want your hands to be blistered, your knees to be aching, and your eyelids to feel like they are made of lead. Because it is only when you are completely broken that Phase 2 begins. Demolitions, the math of destruction. This is what separates the Sapper Leader Course from every other combat school on the planet. When a regular soldier uses explosives, they use pre-packaged, mathematically calculated charges. An infantryman throws a fragmentation grenade. He doesn't calculate the blast radius. A breacher uses a pre-made door charge. A sapper does not use pre-packaged solutions. A sapper looks at a target, measures the dimensions of the steel, the wood, or the concrete, and builds a custom explosive charge from scratch. Inside the classroom and later out in the field, the candidates are taught the dark arts of explosive engineering. They learn the properties of RDX, TNT, composition C-4, detonating cord, and ammonium nitrate. They must memorize and execute specific mathematical formulas for every single type of material they intend to destroy. If a sapper needs to drop a massive oak tree across a road to create an abattis, a roadblock designed to stop an enemy convoy, they cannot just wrap a bunch of C-4 around the trunk and hope for the best. If you use too much explosive, you vaporize the tree and there is no roadblock. If you use too little, the tree stands. You have to calculate the exact amount of explosive required to cleanly sever the timber. The candidate must measure the diameter of the tree. They use the timber cutting formula. They have to calculate the diameter squared, divide it by a specific constant based on the type of explosive and the placement, and derive the exact number of pounds of C-4 required. But it doesn't stop there. They have to place the charge perfectly, utilizing the concept of a kicker charge, to ensure the tree falls exactly in the direction of the road, interlocking with other trees to create an impassable barrier. Now apply that level of mathematics to steel. Steel is infinitely more resilient than wood. To cut a steel I-beam on a highway bridge, the sapper must calculate the cross-sectional area of the steel web and the flanges. They use complex formulas involving the thickness of the steel, the width, and a target constant. They must physically mold the malleable C-4 explosive perfectly into the web of the I-beam, ensuring absolute contact, because any air gap between the explosive and the steel will drastically reduce the brisance, the shattering effect of the detonation. This mathematics must be flawless. In the old days of combat engineering, there was a terrible philosophy known as P for P, plenty for Pete. It meant if the math says you need 2 pounds of C4, use 10 pounds just to be sure. The Sapper Leader Course aggressively punishes this mindset. In modern, asymmetrical warfare, you are fighting in urban environments. If a sapper uses 10 pounds of C4 to blow a door when the math required only 1 pound, the overpressure will collapse the entire building, killing the hostages inside, and the shrapnel will kill the assault team stacked in the hallway. You must calculate the net explosive weight, NEW. You must calculate the minimum safe distance, MSD. You have to factor in the K-factor for the type of structure you are in, whether you are dealing with a shielded or unshielded blast, and you must predict exactly how the blast wave will behave in a confined space. And remember, the candidates are not doing this math in a comfortable, brightly lit classroom with a cup of coffee. They are doing it in the freezing mud. They are doing it at 3 in the morning. They are doing it while operating on less than 4 hours of sleep over the last 3 days. This is the genius of the Sapper Leader Course. It tests your cognitive resilience. When the human brain is sleep-deprived, the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for complex problem-solving, working memory, and mathematics, is the very first thing to shut down. The brain regresses to the primitive amygdala. You can still run, you can still shoot a rifle. But asking a sleep-deprived soldier to divide decimals and calculate the volumetric pressure of a water impulse charge is like asking a toddler to perform neurosurgery. The candidates stare at their waterproof notebooks, the numbers swimming on the page. They do the math 3, 4, 5 times, their hands shaking from the cold, terrified of making a mistake. Because if the math is wrong, the cadre will fail you. If the math is wrong, the bridge doesn't drop. Once the math is verified, you must physically build the charge. This introduces the terrifying reality of explosive initiation systems. Sapper candidates must master the modernized demolition initiator (MDI) system, utilizing shock tube and non-electric blasting caps. A blasting cap is an incredibly sensitive, highly volatile primary explosive. It is designed to detonate with enough heat and shock to initiate the secondary, more stable explosive like C4. If you drop a block of C4, nothing happens. You can shoot it with a rifle and it will not explode. But a blasting cap commands absolute respect. The candidates must handle these caps with frozen, clumsy fingers. They must tape them securely to detonating cord, creating complex main line and branch line systems that connect multiple charges together to ensure simultaneous detonation. They learn to build ring mains, water impulse charges, where IV bags filled with water are placed behind the explosive to direct the blast energy forward into a steel door, and shape charges that focus the explosive energy into a molten jet of copper capable of penetrating armor plating. When the charge is built, primed, and placed, the sapper retreats to the safe standoff distance. The cadre hands them the initiator, the M81 igniter. You pull the pin, grip the cylinder, and pull. The shock tube flashes. A fraction of a second later, the earth physically violently shakes. The concussive wave hits your chest before the sound reaches your ears. A massive plume of black smoke, vaporized concrete, and pulverized steel erupts into the sky. When the smoke clears, the bridge is gone, the tree is felled, the obstacle is obliterated. There is a profound, primal satisfaction in witnessing the exact mathematical application of violence change the physical geography of the earth. But there is no time to celebrate. The course immediately shifts into Phase 3, the patrolling phase, the crucible. For the final 8 to 10 days of the course, the Sapper candidates are deployed into the field for continuous, non-stop tactical operations. This phase is designed to simulate the absolute worst conditions of combat. The physical load carried by a sapper during the patrolling phase is arguably the heaviest in the entire United States military. A standard infantryman carries his weapon, ammunition, water, and survival gear. A sapper carries all of that plus the explosives. They carry 40-pound cratering charges strapped to the outside of their rucksacks. They carry bandoliers of C-4, thousands of feet of detonating cord, and heavy steel Bangalore torpedoes. A sapper's rucksack routinely exceeds 100 pounds. They must patrol through the dense, unforgiving Missouri woods, navigating complex terrain at night, constantly maintaining security against simulated enemy ambushes. The sleep deprivation reaches catastrophic levels. Candidates are lucky to get 1 hour of sleep a night. The hallucinations become severe. I have seen sapper candidates walking in a tactical formation, staring blankly at the trees, and having full conversations with people who are not there. I have seen guys fall asleep while mid-stride, collapsing under the weight of their rucksacks, only to be dragged back to their feet by their teammates. But the mission does not stop. They are given complex, multi-stage objectives. A typical mission profile looks like this. The platoon must infiltrate enemy territory at midnight. They must locate an enemy supply route. They must calculate and fell an abattis to block the road. Then they must move to a secondary objective, a heavily fortified enemy compound surrounded by concertina wire and a simulated minefield. The platoon takes contact. Blank machine gun fire erupts from the tree line. Artillery simulators explode in the dark, disorienting the candidates. The cadre are walking through the chaos, casually evaluating the sapper leadership. The sapper squad leader must aggressively command his exhausted, hallucinating men. He must direct suppressive fire, but shooting is not the objective. The objective is the breach. Bring up the Bangalores. The breach team sprints forward under covering fire. They are carrying Bangalore torpedoes, long, heavy steel tubes packed with high explosives. They must physically slide these tubes under the razor wire, connect them together in a long chain, and prime them under direct simulated enemy fire. The breacher pulls the igniter and sprints back to cover. Fire in the hole, fire in the hole, fire in the holes. The Bangalores detonate with a massive, deafening roar. The explosive overpressure vaporizes the concertina wire, creating a clean 3-meter-wide path through the obstacle. The squad leader screams, "Breach, breach, breach," and the exhausted sappers flood through the smoke, storming the compound and eliminating the targets. This cycle of grueling foot marches, complex mathematical demolitions, and violent tactical assaults continues for over a week. It is a grinding, unrelenting test of your soul. The cadre are looking for the point where a man decides that the math is too hard, the rucksack is too heavy, and the sleep deprivation is too painful. They are looking for the men who compromise their standards when they think no one is watching. is if you cut corners on a demolition calculation because you are tired, you fail. If you drop your weapon because your hands are numb, you fail. If you refuse to carry the extra cratering charge to help a teammate whose knees have given out, you fail. The Sapper Leader Course does not just teach you how to blow things up. It teaches you how to function as a leader when every single biological alarm in your body is screaming at you to quit. It teaches you that your mind is capable of executing complex logic even when your body is essentially dying. At the end of the 28 days, the surviving candidates march back to the parade field. They are emaciated. They have lost 15 to 20 pounds of body weight. Their uniforms are shredded, and their eyes have the hollow, thousand-yard stare of men who have looked into the abyss. They stand in formation, and the cadre walk down the line, pinning the sapper tab to their left shoulder. It is a small red and white arc that says Sapper. To a civilian, it is just a piece of cloth. But to the men who wear it, it represents an initiation into one of the most exclusive, brilliant, and lethal brotherhoods on the planet. When an infantry commander sees a soldier with a sapper tab walk into the Tactical Operations Center, he knows two things. He knows that there is no physical obstacle on the battlefield that this man cannot destroy. And he knows that this man will absolutely not quit, no matter how miserable the conditions become. So why am I taking the time to detail the agonizing mathematics of the Sapper Leader Course? Because the architecture of destruction and the discipline of the sapper apply directly to the psychological obstacles in your own life. You will probably never have to calculate the exact amount of composition C-4 required to sever a steel I-beam under enemy fire. You will probably never carry a 100-pound rucksack through the Ozark Mountains while hallucinating from sleep deprivation. But life is going to drop massive, seemingly impassable obstacles directly into your path. You are going to face structural barriers in your career, in your relationships, and in your own mental health. You will hit a wall, and your momentum will grind to a complete halt. The natural civilian instinct when faced with a massive obstacle is to turn around. It is to surrender to the barrier. The sapper instinct is entirely different. The sapper looks at the obstacle not as an end point, but as a math problem waiting to be solved. When you hit a wall in your life, you cannot just throw blind energy at it. That is the equivalent of plenty for Pete. If you just react with blind rage and massive emotional explosions, you are going to cause catastrophic collateral damage to your life and the people around you. You will blow up the whole building just to get through the door. You must cultivate the discipline of the sapper. Step back from the obstacle, measure it, analyze the structural integrity of the problem. What is the exact point of failure? What is the specific action required to sever the barrier? Do the math. Calculate the net explosive weight of your actions. Understand the blast radius of your decisions. If you make this career change, what is the collateral damage to your family? If you cut this toxic person out of your life, what is the minimum safe distance you need to establish to avoid the shrapnel? And most importantly, you must learn to do the hard math when you are exhausted. Anyone can make good decisions when they are well-rested, comfortable, and motivated. But the true test of your character, the true crucible of your leadership, is the quality of the decisions you make when you are tired, beaten down, and emotionally starved. Can you maintain your discipline when the conditions are miserable? Can you meticulously prepare the charge, check your connections, and execute the plan when your hands are shaking and you just want to quit? The Sapper Leader Course proves that the human mind can override absolute physical exhaustion to achieve mathematical perfection. You have a reservoir of cognitive endurance